Why the Galactic Safety Committee banned humans from all amusement parks. Marcus Chen had already worked for a complete 3 years at the Galactic Tourism Board the day the initial alien delegation arrived to review what they had officially referred to humanity's weapons of mass entertainment. He remembered the date distinctly because it was the exact day that he had finally been promoted to senior cultural liaison, and he had already had plans to celebrate at Six Flags that weekend. The delegation of 12 representatives of the most dominant species on the Andromeda Council was headed by Ambassador Vexera of the fragile crystalline Xanthari Empire, whose people were brittle enough to be shattered by a firm handshake. Commander Bilox was the representative for the sea-dwelling Hydrians, who required environmental suits chock full of their native world's dense, methane-rich atmosphere to tolerate Earth gravity. Most concerning of the group was General Korth, of the expansion-minded Drakmari, whose people had in their past crushed 17 star systems, but which had a policy against everything that involved greater than 2 Gs of acceleration. Marcus stood in the chromed-out New Geneva office of the GTB's New Geneva headquarters, looking on as the aliens writhed in their specially designed chairs. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, work crews were applying finishing touches on human civilization's latest addition to the interstellar tourist industry, the Infinity Loop, a roller coaster which twirled through 4 dimensions and had a drop which officially took -3 seconds because of some clever manipulation of space-time in the immediate vicinity. Ambassador Vextera, Mr. Chen's voice returned on the CUM system, his voice unwavering. I believe we need to discuss the concerning reports you've received regarding your people's recreational facilities. Marcus straightened his tie and unfolded his tablet, which contained the first safety reports. Of course, Ambassador. We're always happy to answer questions about our tourism industry. Which attractions were you talking about? General Korth's mandibles snapped ominously. All of them. The silence was awkward. Marcus gazed at his personal assistant, Jennifer Park, who was fighting not to burst out laughing. She had been with the GTB since first contact, and she had known where the conversation was leading from a long way back. Aha! Commander Bilox grinned through his translator. We'll start with the worst offender. This Ohio shoreline installation of yours called Cedar Point. Marcus nodded vigorously. Yes, Cedar Point. Roller coaster capital of the world. We're particularly proud of their latest addition, the Millennium Force Plus. This one runs 95 miles an hour and drops 310 feet with a moment of weightlessness and constant 4.5 G-forces on a series of Ionanthosifa. Ambassador Vexthera, as crystalline form, shone with what Marcus had grown to know was extreme suffering. 4.5 G. Well, yes. That's a little low for modern-day coasters. New hypercoasters can deliver 6 gigaseconds of force, and I hear of a prototype being created that General Korth broke in. Mr. Chen, his face tanned and his eyes averted from theirs. My men have created starships to cross galactic distances. We possess weapons which can shatter moons. We've overrun worlds which occupy 17 different points in space simultaneously. And you're talking about acceleration, which would destroy 78% of my premier shock troop division in the first 30 seconds. Marcus had his first pang of what was to be a very, very day. I beg your pardon. I believe you are mistaken. These aren't weapons. These are recreational rides. People ride on them for fun. The translator modules fell silent for a moment, and Marcus could almost hear the processors of quantum computing struggle with the concept. Fun, repeated Commander Bilox slowly. You expose yourselves to energies which would cause our internal organs to liquefy. For recreational reasons. Amen to that. Grinned Marcus, who was warming to the subject. That's only the start. We've got rides which spin you around several ways at once and then subject you to changing gravity. Attractions which leave you in pure freefall for quite a period of time. And we've only recently perfected technology which can give you a simulation of being shot from a cannon through a wormhole. Jennifer cleared her throat. Marcus, maybe we should, and the psychological elements. Marcus continued, not noticing the rising fright on the visitors' faces. We're dedicated to recreating mortal terror, dark houses where we attack people, fright attractions where you're running through complete darkness. And then we've got that new virtual world thing that convinces you you're being chased by zombies on a platform you're stuck on, which shakes, spins around, and tilts back and forth everywhere. Ambassador Vexthera emitted a sound like shattering glass. Violent torture is a rather extreme description, said Marcus, consulting his tablet. Our customer satisfaction levels are very good. 89% of visitors have a great time, and 94% would recommend attractions to their friends and family. General Korth leaned forward, his predatory eyes narrowing. You're claiming that human beings have developed weapons capable of subjecting living organisms to forces and conditions which most civilized worlds would term methods of execution. And you use these weapons on your own citizens for entertainment. Yes. I mean, framing it that way does sound quite sinister, concurred Marcus. But really, it is more of an adrenaline fix. A thrill of danger with no danger at all. Well, at least no significant danger. We do have quite comprehensive safety procedures, mostly. Commander Billox's environmental suit began to bubble more vigorously. Jennifer broke in. What Marcus is saying is that we have an excellent safety record. Statistically, you're more likely to be injured driving to the park than you are on the rides themselves. And still, Ambassador Vexthera stated, your species goes on to manufacture these lethal devices more extreme each year. We've followed your progress. In the past decade alone, you've increased maximal speeds by 23%, vertical dives by 31%, and created forces that never existed in nature before your invention of them. Marcus grinned. We're always experimenting what we can and can't handle. The human physique is amazingly tough, and we discovered we can tolerate a whole lot more than we first thought. And anyway, there's something rather special about facing your terrors and Mr. Chen. General Korth's voice snapped through the air like a plasma torch. Let me be quite frank about something. The Drakmari Empire's expertise for the past 3 centuries is intimidation by superior technology. We've crushed whole civilizations to shaking submission by merely showing off our military prowess. And in the last 6 months since initiating trade relations with Earth, we've had 17 official entreaties from other species requesting us to offer protection against humanity. A safeguard against us. Marcus shut his eyes. We're one of the most benign entity to ever join the galactic community. We've never sparked a war against anyone. We've handed out our technology for free, and we've only been welcoming to alien tourists, yes, replied Ambassador Vexthera, which only frightens us more. Species that build weapons of war, we can accommodate. We can fight. We can negotiate. We can give a very wide berth. A species that builds weapons which can be used to eradicate most known forms of existence and then affix their young onto them for a game. This suggests a level of frivolity with death which even our most veterans find disturbing. Marcus stared at Jennifer, who was laughing hysterically. I'm sorry, she wheezed through giggles. But that's exactly what I had predicted would happen as soon as we opened Earth travel to the galaxy at large. You predicted that? Marcus said. Marcus, try putting yourself in their place. We've basically invited the galaxy to drop by for a visit at our world-sized torture chamber. Of course, they're freaking out. Commander Billox's translator stalled as he digested this message. Ms. Park, you're claiming human beings aren't aware of what your recreational activities appear to other species. Oh, we do, Jennifer said, wiping away at tears. We just don't give a damn. That's kind of the point. The silence thus induced was deafening. Marcus could hear air ducts humming, the construction vehicles in the distance assembling the infinity loop, and what was possibly General Korth's teeth grinding. Certainly not, stated Ambassador Vexthera decisively. Maybe you can clarify the cultural significance of these rituals. There must be something inherent, some religious or evolutionary meaning which merits the risks. Marcus thought about it for the first time seriously. Well, I suppose it goes back to our very earliest history. Man has always craved excitement. We're the race which looked at the loftiest mountains and climbed them, at the bottomless seas and explored them. And having used up dangerous places on our own globe, we came to find means of quitting it and discovering dangerous places on other worlds. But why? General Korth wanted to know. What prompts it? Honestly, Marcus shrugged. We get bored easily. Earth physics are pretty run-of-the-mill. 1g of gravity, normal environmental conditions, thermodynamic principles that hold true. Every time, any moment you're aware of it, it just feels routine. And so we set about developing things that could provide us with experiences natural Earth physics couldn't possibly offer. Jennifer agreed. It's a fact. We've done it for generations. Even before we had the technology to create modern roller coasters, we were throwing ourselves down mountains with primitive gliders, racing automobiles at speeds which would be deadly for us in the event of a crash, and inventing games which involved bashing each other with every possible object you can imagine. Sports, repeated Commander Billock's weekly. Oh, you should watch hockey, Marcus clarified enthusiastically. Warfare, basically, but with sticks and a frozen rubber puck, and everyone's gliding around on blades, full tilt on the ice. Or American football, where the object is really to tackle aggressively whoever the ball is being carried by, all the while wearing armor that would give medieval knights green Isolus ambassador. Vexera was doing it again with that breaking glass sound. You've militarized fun. That's not very fair at all, Marcus protested. We've entertained I's weapons, maybe, but that's a whole different thing, is it? General Korth inquired. Because from where I sit, what seems to be occurring is that your entire species has become addicted to something which by all right should be lethal for you. Marcus hesitated. Well, when you say it that way, Jennifer summoned a holographic screen with visitor statistics for the past year. Let's put things in perspective, okay? Last year, Earth's amusement parks attracted over 400 million people. The injury rate was 0.0034%, and the death rate was more or less zero. And we had roughly 2.3 million people voluntarily participate in extreme sports-based jumping, free climbing, and something called zorbing, which is basically rolling down a hill in a large, clear ball. Why? Ambassador Vexera asked, speaking barely above a whisper. Because it's fun, replied Marcus and Jennifer in unison. The aliens gazed at one another without translation necessary. They were standing before a race that had collectively decided that the universe wasn't quite exciting enough and had deemed it appropriate to improve that situation. Mr. Chen, General Korth said slowly, I have to ask you something, and I hope you'll think very seriously about it before you answer. Do people realize they're scaring people? Marcus considered. I mean, we can be tough if we must, but overall, we see ourselves as extremely hospitable. We love visiting other people, exchanging cultures, showing off our achievements. That's why we're looking forward to galactic tourism. You want to share this with other species? No problem. We've already started work on the first interplanetary theme park. We're locating it in the asteroid belt, halfway between Mars and Jupiter, because of the fluctuating gravity fields and sheer scenery. And the piece de resistance is a roller coaster that essentially shoots you through space, with transparent tunnels which let you look at the cosmos whizzing by at speeds you only would with a spaceship. Commander Billock sighed. A whooshing sound, a balloon being let down. You're producing weapons of mass entertainment in space. We prefer to term them experiences of mass, all corrected Jennifer. Just wait until you hear about the underwater park we're contemplating for Europa. The pressure differentials alone will permit experiences literally not possible anywhere else in the solar system. Ambassador Vexera had risen to her feet, her crystalline form radiating what Marcus was becoming increasingly used to recognizing as existential fear. I need to contact the Andromeda Council immediately. This is more important than we first thought. How bigger? Marcus asked, now seriously upset. Mr. Chen, don't you know what you've done? You've created a form of entertainment that's a double demonstration of your species' sheer lack of immunity to fear. Every time an alien delegation passes through one of your fun zones and witnesses human kids laughing while being stretched apart by forces lethal to a dozen trained soldier species, you're tipping your hat to the galaxy. What message, General? Korth responded. That man is so confident of his own immunity that he's turned mortal peril into a hobby. That you're so unbothered by the dictates of the cosmos, you're opting to ignore them for the sheer excitement of it. That you're either the most courageous or most insane species on the planet, and I must say, both possibilities are quite terrible. Marcus was getting more and more uncomfortable. But that's not looking to intimidate anyone. We're just looking to have a good time. That, said Ambassador Vextera, is why it is so frightening. Species that build weapons to intimidate. Their enemies are reliable. But a species that builds weapons for their own amusement and then invites their potential enemies to test them on their own initiative. That's psychological warfare most civilizations can't even conceive of. Jennifer was reading from her tablet, her face more and more concerned by the minute. Marcus, I'm getting reports from other locations. Apparently, we've had the same reactions overseas from visiting delegations at Disney World, at Universal Studios, and at that extreme sports complex which opened recently in Colorado. What kinds of reactions? Well, the Disney World envoy of the Xanthari fainted during the opening scene of the Guardians of the Galaxy ride. The Hydrian delegation at Universal Studios was evacuated after they saw adults stand in line of their own accord for a simulation designed to replicate being pummeled by dinosaurs. And the extreme sports complex. Let's just say watching people leap off mountains on fabric wings made some kind of fiasco out of diplomacy. Marcus settled back heavily. You're saying that our entire tourism industry is being viewed as a threat? Display. Not just a threat display, General Korth corrected. A demonstration of species-scale fearlessness, which is either blind faith in your ability to survive whatever the universe throws at you, or a level of disrespect for your own mortality, which means you had better not be quite sane. But we're not brave, countered Marcus. We're afraid of a lot of things. Insects, speaking in front of people, running out of coffee. You're afraid of spiders, but you're not afraid of being hurled through space at 120 miles per hour. Well, spiders are unpredictable. Roller coasters are safe by design. Ambassador Vextera echoed that glass-shattering sound. You just proved their case, Mr. Chen. You've created a technology which lets you expose yourself to environments that would be lethal for most species. And you trust it enough that you find it less harmful than confronting a minuscule arthropod. Jennifer looked up from her tablet. It's worse. I'm being told some of the species are using what we're referring to as the theme park attractions as training facilities. They think we're hardening our population for harsh conditions in preparation for something. Preparation for what? A galactic conquest, maybe? Or just to demonstrate that we're well outside the range of normal organic existence and can overlook physics in the interests of fun and games. Marcus rubbed his temples. This is nuts. We're not on a mission of conquest. We just love roller coasters. Yes, growled General Korth. That's why you're so frightening. Any creature which can look on at the fundamental drives of the cosmos and say, this ain't quite exciting enough. Let's add some loops is obviously on a level which the rest of us can't possibly comprehend. Commander Billox bubbled thoughtfully. There could be a way of clarifying this misunderstanding. Could you tell us the true purpose of all these activities? There must be some good, other than for sheer entertainment. Marcus thought about it. There are health positives. An adrenaline rush can be good for your cardiovascular system. Beating fear on a psychological level can also be a confidence booster and a test of mental strength. And you can't possibly underrate the sheer joy of having had a shared experience. of camaraderie that evolves through sharing something extreme with other human beings. So those activities aren't quite recreational, Ambassador Vextera said. They're training exercises designed to toughen the mind and body and to establish social bonds through shared risk. Cause. I guess you could look at it that way, Marcus admitted. Mr. Chen, General Court's voice was very restrained now. Do you realize what you've just admitted to? You've just admitted you people have developed a system for increasing readiness, for combat and maintaining civilian morale, and you've slipped it past us by labeling it recreational exercise. No, that's not. We're not. Marcus interrupted. Well, I can see why you might look at it that way, but that's not what I mean at all. Jennifer was reading something on her tablet, which was reportedly making her face very pale. Marcus, we have a problem getting dispatches from the Galactic Intelligence Network. Somehow, some species are now believing that Earth's theme parks are actually advanced psychological warfare facilities designed to display human supremacy by sheer indifference to mortal peril. That's ridiculous, said Marcus, but already he could understand the meaning of what they were saying. Is it? Commander Billox insisted. Consider the message you're conveying. You bring foreign leaders to your world, and you bring them facilities where your children laugh through circumstances that would be deadly for their warriors, where your elderly stand in line of their own free will for experiences which would be termed for most civilizations torture, where you framed the underlying physics of the cosmos on a game. Ambassador Vextera was striding back and forth, her crystalline form flashing the lights of the conference room in irritated paces. The Andromeda Council will interpret it as either a threat or a warning. Either the human beings are demonstrating that they're ready for whatever potential conflict, or they're so beyond the range of standard organic life that they're safely beyond the reach of danger itself. But we're not beyond the normal range of biological existence, grumbled Marcus. We're just very good at creating safety systems. Safety systems that allow you to be in lethal conditions without dying, General Korth reminded. Do you understand what that must sound like to species who have not reached such technology? Jennifer gazed back down at her tablet. It does get better. I'm hearing that some species are looking for military alliances with Earth now because they think that since we have amusement parks, we're unstoppable. And others, continued Commander Billox, are considering preemptive strikes because they believe you're too dangerous to be allowed to develop this technology further. Marcus could sense the weight of the situation pressing down on him. You're telling me that our roller coasters are going to cause a galactic war? Not just roller coasters, Ambassador Vextera answered. The entire thing. Your fright houses, your extreme games, your competition events where you'll purposely collide with each other at very high speeds. By most galactic cultures' criteria, you've created a society where you make mortal risk a recreational pursuit. And that's either the most advanced psychological warfare program ever designed, or a verification that human beings are qualitatively distinct from other organic forms in some ways which make them unpredictable and perhaps dangerous. Marcus was silent for an extremely long period of time, thinking about the implications. Finally, he looked back at the alien delegation. What if we tone it down a little bit? Less extreme rides, a milder experience that other species would be able to tolerate? General Korth shook his head. Too late for that. The damage is already done. The galaxy was shown what human fun is, and that can't be unlearned. That's beside the point, argued Jennifer. Do you really believe human beings would agree to make their amusement parks boring in a bid to be friendlier to aliens? We're opening 3 hypercoasters next month, and the space park is still on schedule. Commander Billox emitted a laugh that might have passed for an alien guffaw. So what you're saying is that in full knowledge that your recreational activities are creating a galactic diplomatic incident, human beings are still going to be building increasingly extreme forms of entertainment. Well, sure, Marcus said. I mean, we're not going to cease having a good time just because other people are going to think we're nuts. The silence that followed was oppressive. Marcus could watch the aliens process through this data and could almost see them reach the same conclusion simultaneously. Ambassador Vexeta indicated very hesitantly. You yourself recently told us that your race continues to develop technology which other cultures perceive as weapons of mass destruction, even in full knowledge of the fact that the perception thereof is causing fear and instability throughout the galaxy, lest that would interfere with your entertainment. That's not the way I would express it, but that's what every other being in the galaxy is also going to be saying about it. General Korth growled. Well done, Mr. Chen. Your people have inadvertently declared themselves the most casually terror-inducing society in known space, and they're clearly planning to continue being just that for quite some time yet. Jennifer was laughing again, but it had a hint of hysteria to it. What's hilarious is we're not even remotely there yet. Our development teams already have rides working on time dilation, attractions working on controlled black holes for effects, and I've got a concept for a park operating through 17 dimensions simultaneously. Commander Billox's environmental suit was beeping ominously. Controlled black holes. As a special effect, it's only in the initial phase, replied Marcus hastily. We're most likely several years away from its actual application. Years. End quote. Reiterated Ambassador Vexthera. Quote, you're years away from being able to change cosmic events which can destroy solar systems into carnival attractions. End quote. Yes, little ones. Very little ones. Totally harmless. General Korth slowly stood up, his feline frame casting a long shadow along the table. Mr. Chen, I want you to retrieve something. I have seen civilizations fall by my own eyes. I have watched weapons of unwriting realities. I have looked through the abyss between galaxy arms and felt cosmic insignificance. And I find myself sitting in a room listening to you discuss planning on harnessing the very fundamental drives of the universe for games and fun. And I experience something I have never experienced before. What's that? A real fright at what your species might find amusing next year? Marcus looked around the room, at the hastily repressed facial expressions of alarm on the aliens' faces, at the annals of galactic affairs of state flashing by on Jennifer's tablet, at the whir of construction equipment outside assembling human civilization's next unrealistic thrill ride. He finally broke his silence. I believe we might be having some communications issue. Ambassador Vexthera paused, her voice talking of a mind which had only just realized it was handling something beyond its scope of understanding. I don't think the issue is a lack of communication. I think the issue is a fundamental disagreement on the manner a species goes about the concept of existing itself. Why's that? Astonishingly, most of the galaxy's inhabitants spend their time avoiding threats, limiting risk, and creating stable, reliable worlds on which to live and thrive. You human beings, having seemingly perfected the survival art, have gone on to looking for new, innovative ways of almost dying for the fun of it. Jennifer nodded in agreement. That's a pretty good description of human recreational culture. And the fact that you're able to say that without appearing to give a moment's concern for what you're saying to other living things, General Korth remarked, is just why you're so terrifying. Marcus realized that they had reached a dead end. Aliens could not understand why human beings would knowingly endanger themselves for the purpose of having fun. And human beings could not understand why other beings were afraid of this instead of being amazed by it. So what now? He asked. Commander Billox gazed at his tablet. Now I get to return to the Hydrian Collective and inform them that Earth's theme parks aren't quite advanced training camps for super soldiers, but more a testament to human beings having moved beyond the standard correlation of organic existence and mortal peril. And I, stated Ambassador Vexthera, need to convince the Zenthari Empire that human beings' frivolity concerning energies which would kill the majority of our population is not a concerted insult to our physiological constraints, but only the manner human beings wish to spend their weekends. General Korth was already on his way to the door. I must inform the High Command of the Drakmari that we have run into a race which is so confident of its own survival that it has transformed. potential means of execution to popular modes of entertainment, and that they appear to be dedicated to continuing the trend without end. Marcus watched them go and felt a bizarre pride and concern. On the positive side, it was somehow fulfilling to find that other civilizations were intimidated by human beings. On the negative, the risk of accidentally causing a galactic war through roller coasters was something that he had never assumed that he would have reason to be concerned about. Jennifer was still scrolling on her tablet. Marcus, I've had some time to reflect on everything, and I thought of something. What's that? We'll never be able to tell them about this. Chasing danger for fun is a notion that's so human that other civilizations can't begin to comprehend. We look to them like a race that somehow succeeded in putting the elements of the cosmos under its control to the point where we can play parlor games with cosmic events. Marcus slowly agreed. Now what they dread most, on their part, is that we're not even doing it for the purpose of scaring them. We're bored. Just that. We've unconsciously become the most terrifying race in the galaxy, not because we're warlike or military, but because we're rather casually opposed to risk, and we've made a business of excitement. Out of the window, Marcus could see the work of the infinity loop in progress. Shortly, human subjects would be lining up to be propelled at a phenomenal speed through a four-dimensional frame by a controlled distortion of space-time, and paying for the privilege. You know what? Marcus finally said. I think I'll be all right with that. Jennifer looked at him in shock. Really? Indeed. If the galaxy is just going to be afraid of us because we know how to have a good time, that's their issue. We've never attacked anyone, we've never threatened anyone, and we've only been welcoming to all of the different races we've met. If they want to interpret our amusement park neighborhoods as some form of cosmic arrogance, that says more about them and less about us. And anyway, Jennifer added with a grin, you can't peddle vacation trips without a certain sense of being absurdly dangerous. Marcus was grinning. Earth, come for the near-death experiences. Stay because you're afraid to leave home. That's not a bad slogan at all. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the construction crews putting finishing touches on humankind's latest attempt to spice the universe a little. In a few hours, Marcus would be tasked with writing a report on why 3 different alien species had run from Earth in plain terror. After being invited to what human beings thought was a thoroughly uneventful business meeting. In a few days, he'd inevitably have to deal with more crises of diplomacy when the news propagated throughout the galactic community that human beings had somehow made a hobby of physics, but for the moment, gazing westward at the sinking sun. Above the GTB headquarters building, as the infinity loop stretched impossibly through dimensions that literally didn't exist, Marcus experienced what he suspected no other species in the galaxy could possibly comprehend: the great gratification of a mission, consummately well done, and the hopeful expectation of what next human beings would dream up that was beyond the realms of downright impossibility. Because if one thing had been proven by today's gathering, it was that human beings would never stop pushing the boundaries of what was possible, never stop seeking out novel methods of exciting the universe, and never stop savoring experiences that would frighten most other living organisms. And honestly, Marcus thought, looking at the first test vehicle pass its way through the temporal inversion cycle of the infinity loop, that was exactly the way he wanted it.